Alright, so I've seen some pretty dirty computers and computer components in my day, but I don't think I've ever found one that's quite as bad as this. Alright, see, looking at the back of this thing, it's got about the normal amount of dust that you'd expect from, a card that's this old, but, you've already seen the thumbnail. Just how does this even happen? How do you let your graphics card get this disgusting? Like, that is just horrifying. Like, it's just not even a fan anymore. It's just a spinning wheel of dust. Like, oh man. So yeah, we're going to be cleaning this thing up today because you can tell it desperately needs it. And if the fan is this bad, I can only imagine how bad it is inside the heatsink part. So before we crack this thing open, I guess I should explain what exactly this card is. So this is a GTS 250. Came out in 2009 as like a budget offering. Has 512 megs of GDDR3 VRAM. It was actually made by XFX in this case. Yes, before they went AMD only, XFX did make NVIDIA cards as well, which is pretty fascinating. This couldn't have been that much earlier than like when they went AMD only. So I think this could actually be one of their, maybe not one of their final, but pretty close to their final NVIDIA cards. So you might be thinking that this card really isn't all that special on its own, and you are kind of correct. It is basically just a budget card from, early 2009. It's not really anything super special, at least on face value. But the one thing that I find that's interesting about this is that this is basically a rebadged 9800 GTX Plus, which if you know anything about the 9800, you'll know that it's based on the older 8800 series. I believe specifically the 8800 GT because it uses the G92 core. And since the G92 is based on the G80, that means that this card is actually based on one of my favorite cards of all time, the 8800 GTX. And I'm not going to get super in-depth on this card specifically, but this was revolutionary for the time. Came out in November 2006, and it really just changed the way GPUs were made from that point forward. But yeah, that's just something I thought that was interesting, is that those cards are actually related. And the performance of this should be, I would guess, probably at least on par with the GTX, if not faster, because, this is a couple years newer. I imagine that they were able to bump the clock speeds up even higher. Now, before we clean this thing, I think we should get a baseline of the thermals, because they're not good. Let's just say that. Alright, so I'm going to be throwing this graphics card into this HP Z400 workstation that I have. And, yeah, it just has like a Xeon in it and like 12 gigs of RAM. It's pretty old though, it's not like super modern. So we're just gonna go ahead and plug it in. Now, the interesting thing about this is that the 6-pin PCI Express power is actually on the back of the card, which is definitely a bit unusual. Alright, so we went ahead and booted into, okay, I know it's Windows 10. I don't normally have Windows 10 on this computer, it's just what was on it at the moment, and I didn't want to reinstall like XP or 7 or something on here, so we're just rocking this, and it's not super important for what we're doing today, so it doesn't really matter. But here's all the specs of the card if you wanted to read them. So if we look at the temperature here in Afterburner, you can see it's idling at 41, 42. And everything is set to just auto, the normal default settings. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm actually going to leave this here and just idle it for about 10 minutes or so. And this number is going to go up pretty high. Alright, so it's been about 10 minutes, and as you can see, yeah, it's idling at 66 degrees. That's bad. That's pretty bad. So let's torture it by running a benchmark. I'm just gonna run Unigen Heaven Yeah, something tells me this card is gonna cook. Now, we don't care much about the performance of the benchmark because it's not gonna perform super well on a card of this age, but all we care about is the temperature right up there. And you can see we're about to hit 80. And you can probably hear the fan ramping up too. Alright, so it's been running for a few minutes now, and it's bouncing between 84 and 85, and I really haven't seen it go higher at all, so I think this might have stabilized the temperature, which this honestly isn't as high as I was expecting it to be. Although the fan is running, as you can see, I believe that's the fan percentage, it's running almost at 90%, so it's very loud right now. Alright, so let's end the torture. So I think it's time we crack this thing open and rescue this thing from its suffering. So something interesting about this card is you can actually see there's like unused screw holes, but you can look right through them and they don't have any like, there's nowhere for a screw to go in, so I guess this is just a reference PCB and this cooler just doesn't use them, which I've never really seen that on a graphics card, but it's kind of interesting. Now we gotta tackle the fan, and oh, it's oh, oh no, oh, there's so much. Oh, it just keeps on giving. It just keeps on giving. Oh, look at this. This is disgusting. I've never seen something as bad as this. Oh. Oh. There's just a massive dust bunny. And I'm like coming at... Oh, there it is. Get off of there. Yeah, it's going to be hard to get down into the grooves. I probably should have a different brush for this, but it's getting there. I'm getting there. Could unscrew the fan from this if I wanted to. I think that's what I should do. Look at my hands. Ugh, yuck. Alright, so she'll help us clean it a little bit better. So I wouldn't say the fan is 100% clean, but this is a million times better than it was before. It might actually blow some air. Wow, it's almost like what a fan is supposed to do. And I also cleaned the little plastic thing it was attached to, but like, this dust It looks way bigger in person, the amount of dust. Just like that's horrific. This is why you clean your computers, kids. Don't let it get like this ever. Alright, so for the GPU, we're just gonna use some MX4 because it's non-conductive. That should be more than enough for a die that size. Alright, so this thing's already back together, and let's go ahead and pop it in the computer and see how it runs. We need to do just one last thing, though. Barely hanging on, but there's a pretty good peel. Nice and shiny. Nice. Okay, so idle temperature 47. That's not great, honestly. I was expecting it to be a little bit lower, but it is just an aluminum heatsink with a blower cooler, so I'm going to leave this again for about 10 minutes, and we're going to see how high this gets. 48? Okay, well, hopefully it stays lower than, like, 66. So in a surprising turn of events, we're up to 57 degrees. Not sure why it's still so high, though. Although I will point out that the fan speed does not seem to really have increased at all. So I think maybe adjusting the fan curve would help some, but hey, at least it's not 66. That's got to be better than something, you know. All right, place your bets. I'm gonna guess high 70s. At least the fan speed is actually ramping up correctly, unlike when it was idling, so I'm thinking the temps are going to be better. Oh yeah, it's definitely blowing more air out the back now. So yeah, the fan's definitely doing its job, because it's about 2-3 minutes in and we're only at 74 degrees. So yeah, that's a pretty big improvement. Alright, so it's been going for about 5 minutes or so. And every once in a while it bounces up to 78, but it's kind of hovering around 77, 78. So I don't imagine it getting much beyond like 80 degrees, honestly, but this is a huge improvement. And it's not running the fan quite as fast as well, so that's great. So overall, I'd say this has been a big success. So yeah, I'm gonna say that's about it for this video. Overall, it was a success, and this card is ready to game once again for some. Be very good for late XP games, and who knows, maybe even some early Windows 7 kind of era games. Yeah, we're not doing any benchmarking today. I wanted to keep this video short as I possibly could. It's still probably a bit longer than I wanted it to be, but hey, that's just how it goes. So, thank you guys for watching. Have a good one.